Right, say your names so everybody knows everybody.
Kaviani,
Pete.
Helena,
Bernie.
Judith, Catherine,
Cameron.
Harvard.
Bob. Trevor.
Susie.
Elliot.
Well, no, it's non-duality we talk about, which in Hinduism they call Advaita. And they try and describe Advaita by saying it's one without a second. Because even the idea of one implies there could be other than one. Now it's not only confined to Advaita. If you look in all the old traditions, you'll find it somewhere within the traditions, obscured by a lot of other stuff, but ultimately, basically, it all goes back to that. In the Tao Te Ching, the ultimate scriptures of Buddhism, they say it's non-conceptual, ever fresh, presence awareness, just this, nothing else. Hebrews say, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one. There is none other," meaning no one or no thing other than that. But the label on it, God, of course, that's just another label. And most of the traditions talking about the Supreme will say it's omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. Meaning total presence, total power, total intelligence. Not three things. Three aspects of the one again. So, whichever way you look at it, I'm always pointing to that singularity, that oneness, nothing other. So you see, we're all supposed to be on a spiritual search, because we're trying to become one. See how futile that is, because there can be absolutely no duality in non-duality. There's nothing other than that. Never has been, never will be, never could be. So the whole concept or idea of duality is a fiction that we've locked ourselves into. And that seemingly trying to escape by doing something where we shall become one. That's why we tell you here right from the start that what you're seeking, you already are that. So the search itself is the problem, because there's a subtle implication in the search. There's something you haven't got. There's something you will get at some future time. And it, hanging on to that concept, you see what you're doing. You've got the concept of some future time, and you've moved away, seemingly in the mind, moved away from omnipresence, from total presence, into a so-called future time. What happens if you start from the fact that you already are that? Then what search is necessary? Isn't it all that's needed then is to only recognise what is seemingly obscuring that knowing, if you like to call it understanding or whatever else name you call it, that you already are that. And that's the label they put on it, that. And you'll hear that, or read that in the scriptures, and things, and hear that everywhere. The Mahavakya, the great word, is I am that, thou art that, this is that, that's that. We know that in our language because we say that's a chair, that's a carpet, that's Harold, that's Catherine. Take away the labels, the concepts we put on it, Catherine, Harold, the chair, the carpet, and what's left, it's that. And that meaning that it has no shape, it has no form. It's indescribable, it's ineffable. So that's basically what it's all about. Genuinely recognising or recognising that you are already there, no matter how it seemingly appears. And there are many metaphors to point that out, that it's not what it appears to be. The appearance, no matter what the appearance is, all these so-called entities in this room are all appearing as different. But in essence, they are that. Everybody is that. And you cannot negate that fact, the fact of your own being. And that being is not being this or that, it's just a pure being. And we know that again also. Don't we call the so-called idea of God the supreme being? And we call ourselves human beings. Again, what's separated the beingness? Isn't it a label? Take away the word human and take away the word supreme. Can you cancel out the beingness? Do you stop being without that label human on it? That stop being a chair without the label chair. So everything is already that. Seemingly it appears to be otherwise. And we've taken on the appearance to be the reality. And we just said it is a reality, but not how it appears to be. Knowing that, seeing through it, you're free of it. And that's another scriptural saying they use: know the truth and the truth will set you free. Know the truth, you've got to see, really have a look and see. They use many metaphors to point that out. And the sea, one is the blue sea. Go down to the ocean and see what a beautiful blue sea. If I ask you to get a bucket of blue water out of the sea, what will you say? You say, don't be stupid. Why? Because you know the truth about it. You've investigated and seen that the ocean is never blue. The water itself is never blue. Never was, never will be, never can be. But it doesn't stop it from appearing to be blue. Even if you know the truth of it, it still appears to be blue, and you can still say what a beautiful blue sea. But no way in the world are you going to try and get a bucket of blue water. And the same in many other ways. You look out into space, and we say it's light, space is sky, or look at the sky, the sky is blue, the sky is light, the sky is dark, the sky is grey. But is space any of those colours? What colour is space? Doesn't stop it from appearing to be so, but you know that space is empty. And there's another thing too. The whole of this manifestation is appearing in space. There's nothing you can postulate or think of outside of space. So can something come from nothing? All these things are the content of space. Can something come from nothing? Space is nothing, it's no thing. It's emptiness, what they call emptiness. Not a vacuum or a void. Pure emptiness. So this content, which is appearing in space, can be nothing other than that space. So whatever way you look at it, you see the idea of duality is a total fiction. There can be never anything other than that. And you can break everything down back into that space. This body, for instance, am I this body? When you look at this body and you say, can I find a centre or point anywhere in this body that I can say this is what I am? Well, I've had a look and I can't find anything. You might be able to, but I've never been able to find anything to say what I am at any point that I can say this is what I am. And what is this body made up of? We talk about the essence being non-dual, one without a second, there's no separation. But there appears to be numerous points of separation in this room. And everywhere else you look, seemingly separate. But when I break this body down, what's it made up of? Isn't it made up of elements? Made up of earth, air, fire, water, space, just like the elements around you. Separate yourself from space for a start off if you can. Separate yourself from the earth. See how long you can last. Separate yourself from the body heat, the temperature, the fire in the body. Out of it. Take any of those elements out of this body, how long is it going to appear in this shape or form? And as I said, all those elements can be broken down into subatomic particles of pure emptiness. So I can't possibly be this thing I call the body. And if I have a look at it, isn't it constantly changing? Isn't it like the rest of this manifestation, transient, constantly changing? Even on some time scales, on our time scale, the past might seem to last forever and ever. But it's constantly and ever changing. So is this body. It's not the same body as a little child. Well, if I'm not the body, maybe I'm this thing we call mind. And again, have a look at it. Is there any such thing as mind? My mind and mind this and mind that. But again, I can't find anything substantial enough to call mind, apart from thinking or thoughts. So if mind is just made up of thoughts, which particular thought am I? Primary thought is that thought I am. Looking at that, I see that's just a translation of this presence awareness. This knowingness that is right here presently, the knowingness or the beingness, the knowingness, the translation to the thought I am. So if I was this mind, I'd be that primary thought I am, but how often do you remember that throughout the day? You're constantly repeating to yourself, I am, I am, I am, to confirm your being? Or is that innate knowingness there, whether you're thinking I am or not? And where does the I am thought go to in deep sleep, or if you're unconscious or asleep? Where does that I am thought go there? And is that the end of you without that thought? Do you disappear? Do you fall apart? You wake up as somebody else in the morning. Or is that same sense of presence still patterning and functioning? So I can't be this thought, and after all, what is thought? As I say, I don't use the term God, I call it intelligence energy. And I'm not talking about your intellect when I call it intelligence. I'm talking about the same intelligence that functions as universe. You see the way the universe is patterning and functioning into different shapes and forms, galaxies forming, stars and Earth moving around, Earth going around the sun, seasons coming and going, tides coming in and out. It's not some chaotic state. The way it's functioning implies that it is suffused with an innate intelligence. And I mean suffused with it. There's not some great being or somebody out there that's pulling strings and saying, well, I'll make a fine day today, or make a spring, or all the rest of it. It's suffusing in it, and it's innately knowing what to do. And it's that same intelligence, energy, that is breathing you right now, growing your hair in your fingernails, it's beating your heart, it's digesting your food, replacing cells in your body, all quite effortlessly and naturally. Called intelligence energy because the way it patterns, shapes and forms implies intelligence, and the way it's patterning, shape and form implies it is an energy that's patterning, shaping and forming. Not two things, but two aspects of the one. Another way I put it is the activity of knowing. And I don't mean the knower or the knower. I don't mean, again, But there is nobody who is not knowing right now. Or the now. Beingness, knowingness, that's what they call it, Satchitananda in Hindu, that's what it is. Being, knowing and loving to be. But beingness and knowingness the knowingness, whether it's not the knower or the known, the ing on the end of it implies that there's something that's happening right in the immediacy of this moment. Everybody is knowing right now, not knowing this or that, but that knowingness is there. Not knowing a moment ago, it would be the known. Knowing a moment in the future, it will be knowing right is going on right now. And that ing in it makes it an activity, something that is happening. And any activity, no matter how it is, any activity is a movement of energy. So they could use the term intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. And that is what is happening right now in this immediacy. So, mustn't you be that? Mustn't you be that knowingness? Just the same as the functioning is happening, the seeing, the hearing, the tasting, the touching, the smelling. The seeing is happening. You have a look at this in this room, you're seeing everything. Now, is there anything other than the seeing, really? Seeing before it's split into the pseudo-subject, the thought I see. The thought I see becomes the pseudo-seer, the subject. And what the I see, the pairs of opposite function, the seeing. We're seeing all these so-called objects in this room. And all these so-called objects, aren't they contained in the seeing? So can there be anything other than the seeing? So there are actually no objects. There is only the seeing. If there can be no objects, what is the subject? Isn't the subject the idea of a seer? Another objectifies thing in the seeing. So again, the seeming dualism is cancelled out without a subject or an object. And that's all that dualism comes about from, that idea of separation. The seer and the seen, the thinker and the thought, the feeler and the felt, the doer and the deed. And have a look at a little child, he's got no idea he's separate. He's seeing, he's hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, just the way you and I are doing. But at that stage, yet the capacity of reasoning hasn't developed in him, and he hasn't acquired any words. He hasn't learned any words, so he's got no idea he's separate. He's saying things. Happy he'll cry, if happy he'll laugh, if unhappy he'll cry, do what he's hungry, whatever he'll do, whatever naturally comes up to do. But he's not discriminating it mentally. Just taking things as they are. About 2.5, the capacity of reasoning comes upon us, around about that age. And there's nothing wrong with that capacity, it's just a natural capacity of this patterning, shaping and forming the thing we call the human being. Other animals, insects or birds have different capacities, some more developed capacities in other ways than what we have. Like a bird can see much further and better than we can. Other animals can camouflage themselves naturally, which we can't do. Naturally, we can do it to make up all sorts of things. So that capacity of reason comes upon him, and what does he do? He starts to learn words from his parents. As I say, thinking, as I said, is just a vibration, and a vibration is a movement of energy. So thoughts or thinking is still that intelligence energy, the same as it's patterning this body, it's still patterning the thoughts. So it's still the one essence, appearing as everything. No difference. So now it's patterning as thought. And thought, at the very subtle level, is a very subtle vibration. When it comes out as word, what's the word sound? What sound? Sound is a vibration. What is a vibration? It's a movement of energy. So it's still that intelligence energy. So what happens when a little child starts to learn words? He learns them from experience. He learns. I say that way that thinking functions vibrating into the opposites. That's what a vibration is, a movement to and fro, back and forth, or whatever. And it's always vibrating in the opposites. And have a look at your mind and see how it's functioning. If it's not past, which is memory, it's future, which is anticipation. And within that range, it's always in your interrelated opposites. It's good, it's bad, it's pleasant, it's painful, it's happy, it's sad. Loving and hating, it's positive, negative. What's your mind, what's your thinking, and see if it functions really in any other way. So it's a wonderfully useful instrument, this thing we call mind, but it's very mechanical in its operation. Being only vibration. So what happens when a little child starts to learn words from his reasoning, from experience? He learns words like a little Johnny or a little Billy. And then he learns words like, this is me. This little Johnny they're talking about, this is me, or this is I. Now what's it, me or I? Isn't it not me, or not I? Then for the first time when he's looking out there, before he's seeing everything just as it is, now he's reasoning, that's not I, well that's not me. And that's when the sense of separation comes upon us. Believing something is not me or not I, you feel separate from it. And with that sense of separation comes insecurity and vulnerability. And that's when our problems start. Because now we believe with this I, or me. What can you do with I or me? Nothing much really, as it stands. So what we do is attach different concepts to it based on our events that have happened to us, our conditioning, experience. We add these concepts. I'm Bob, I'm an Australian, I'm a good fella, I'm not so good, or I'm fearful, or I'm anxious, or I'll never get anywhere, can't do this, or all sorts of concepts are added onto this high thought. Energy of belief going into it. And it's made something seemingly substantial. It's made a self-centre, a reference point, or what we call an ego. These concepts are added onto it, the energy of belief going into it, and seemingly real. We take, and everything is relative to that reference point, that ego. Our problems, always problems of relationship, relative to. Always relating things to this mental picture we got. Not realising what we're constantly relating to is a dead image. It's an image made up of past events and experiences, not that. What image you got about yourself right now before you think about it? Isn't it just a naked presence, a knowingness? It's quite obvious and evident. Not corrupted by any concept. As soon as we go, well, yes, I'm Bob, I'm not so good, or things are not so right, not comfortable, what happened tomorrow, and all the rest of it. So everything comes relative to that reference point. It's judged from there as good, bad, pleasant, or painful. With that sense of separation comes insecurity and vulnerability. If you feel something, especially as a little child, you're isolated, you're insecure. And then that insecurity, you're vulnerable. So that's when the search actually starts. And what are we doing? We're seeking to become whole or complete purely because we've taken this erroneous belief that we are separate. And we're conditioned to look out there from our parents, our teachers, our society, our schools. Acquire, amass, gather, accumulate, add to, whatever you can. Get a good education, more wealth, all these things will make you whole or complete. And they're very handy in the function of living, but is anybody ever satisfied with it? Has the millionaire ever got enough? So it goes on forever and ever. And it will go on forever and ever, purely and simply, till we're looking in the wrong direction. If we can't find it here, what do? That's when we invent a God.
There is somebody out there who is higher power or bigger power than what I am. And if I pray to him or meditate on him, I'll become one with him. I'll become united with him. And if you're always and ever one, how are you ever going to become one? Whatever you got that concept, it's going to keep you away from it. And that's a lot of other things come about with that idea too, because the so-called God. Fear of death comes along and I'll sit on his right hand or go to heaven if I belong to some Western religion, or if I'm an Eastern religion, I'll reincarnate. Come back at another life. Again, all about a separate entity that's going to get somewhere at some future time. The idea of reincarnation implies a future time. Again, moving away from omnipresence, total presence. Become one implies that there is a separate entity. And in the Hensing Min it tells us though all dualities come from the one, do not be attached even to this one. Telling you clearly that all dualities coming from the one couldn't be anything other than the one. To say I see that now and I'm going to attach to the one, you're suddenly implying duality again. Don't have to be attached to it. Just know that all the so-called seeming dualities appearing are nothing other than that one. A lot of things they call it emptiness, cognising emptiness. And some of us get the idea that it's me that's cognising that emptiness, seeing or noticing emptiness. It's not. If I can't find a centre in this body, or in this mind anywhere, then aren't I empty of a centre? Though I'm empty of a centre, do I stop seeing? Do I stop hearing? Do I stop feeling, tasting, touching or smelling? There's no centre or no point in the body that's doing this. Where's it happening? Isn't it that emptiness itself that's cognising? So it's not a vacuum or a void. It is a so-called emptiness suffused again with that intelligence or knowingness. And that's where all the functioning is happening from, just the same as it's happening out there in the universe. So it's this self-centered, this reference point, that's the cause of all our problems. And most of the scriptures will tell you that too. You've got to be rid of the selfishness, the self-centeredness. You've got to do something about this ego, sublimate it, kill it, and do whatever you like with it. But we say here, if you look at it closely, you'll see it never existed. There is no such thing as a self-centered, an ego. It's a fiction. And we point that out by saying that everybody is seeing right now, and everybody is hearing right now. That's a fact. You're seeing and hearing. Ask yourself this: does my eye tell me I see? I look at that closely and I see it's not the eye that's saying, look at this, Bob, look at that. But the seeing is happening through that instrument, the eye, and is being translated by the thought. I see. The same would be hearing. The hearing's happening through the ear. It's being translated by the thought I hear. So the eye's not saying I see, the ear's not saying I hear, but the thought is translating it. But then if I ask myself, well, can this thought I see, can that actually see? Well, just try it and see. Can a thought see? Can this thought I hear? Can a thought hear? So you see that the thought can't see, and the thought itself can't hear. So is the thought I am aware, is that your awareness? Is the thought I choose, is that the choice maker? The thought I have self-will, I can do these things. Is that the doer, the thought? So you see, the thought can't do any of these things. So it has no substance to do any of these things. And above all, it hasn't got any independent nature. I mean by that, if a thought was some power of its own, it would stand on its own. But can a thought stand on its own? How many thoughts can I have if that life essence wasn't there, suffusing this body? Functioning intelligence, causing the breathing to happen, causing the heart to beat, causing thinking happening. And those things, none of those things are independent or have any independent nature of themselves. They're still just the one. So saying that there's no such thing as a self-centre there or an ego, that can result in the cessation of all psychological suffering. Purely and simply because it's only me that can be anxious, only me that can be full of self-pity. And me is the cause of my fear, my anxiety, my self-pity, my stress, whatever. But what if I see that there's no me, as I just pointed out, there's no me. Me is the cause of it, and the other things are effect. And that's what so-called karma is, it's cause and effect. Karma, another story they tell about it. Cause and effect, we've got to be aware of it. But if I say that there's no me, the cause is a fiction, and I ask myself, can there be an effect without a cause? Well, can there? Then what happens to all the psychological suffering? If it's not an effect, it's just a functioning, pattern of functioning the same as anything else. It's not an effect of a separate me. Where's it going to lodge? What's it going to attach to? Is it any more substantial than winter that's just ending now and spring's coming along? You need to be rid of all this psychological suffering. So that's what it's basically about here. In this immediacy of this livingness. There's people here who know that already. So it's not just, we say it's not just for the few, it's for everybody if they'd like to look. It's already and always never have been. So get into it from there. Away you go.